name's Christina and you're watching Proud Book Line, and today I'm doing a free things to talk about featuring my cold LGBTQIAP plus book displays or promotions. I'm not really sure what to name it, but basically I'm talking about the way that books are being sold and being shown when it comes to, I use the word queer and that's something that works for me, so I'm going to say queer books. Now, category number one is when books that are LGBTQIAP plus are as an own category and they have their own shelf, and I think the shelf thing might be okay. Like, it's great to have like books on a shelf that are specifically LGBTQIAP plus, because you can finally see yourself represented and you know which book to go for if that's what you're looking for, which a lot of us are, and I live in a very progressive country, so a lot of people are open with their sexualities or that they are very supportive of the community, which is great. So I do understand the shelf, but I think that it can become an issue when we categorize them as their own category and as their own genre, because having a queer main character is not a genre. Just because I write a sci-fi, for example, with pansexual main character, that does not make it any less of a sci-fi. I don't think that the novel with a pansexual main character should be excluded from the usual sci-fi shelf, because then people might never actually pick it up just because it's secluded to the LGBTQIAP plus shelf. Like, I think that it can become an issue when all the queer books are on one shelf and that they are actually excluded from the normal, like, ordinary shelves. So I personally don't like that as much, and I can get not annoyed, but I can get a tiny bit worried when I see, like in bookstores, for example, when I see a shelf labeled LGBTQIAP plus, because, for example, if you don't have parents that are supportive, or if you just aren't aware or know anything about it yourself, you might not pick those up, and then they might not be on the ordinary shelves, and then they'll never get to read them, which I think is problematic. These are just my opinions featuring my very annoying cold. Number two is like promotions and like sections, but just like, this is what's new, if you understand me. I'm not sure what to call them. Like, are promotions and when books are said to be LGBTQIAP plus and they are put on a special like shelf, but they're still on a normal shelf. I'm not sure how to say it. Like, when they are promoted as LGBTQIAP plus books, but they do have their normal shelf space too, or yeah, probably like that. Like, you know, when there's a table in bookstores, for example, and they are put there as a display, but they are, for example, as LGBTQIAP plus books, but they stand in their shelves as sci-fi, as fantasy, as contemporary. That makes sense? Because I personally really enjoy that. I do think that it's good to have like display books, like new releases with LGBTQIAP plus, and like to have both, just not have them excluded from the normal shelves. But I like having them, for example, one LGBTQIAP plus shelf, but them to also be in the normal shelves, if that makes sense. I personally enjoy that a lot more, and I do think that it could be like a new releases for LGBTQIAP plus, where there's only new releases that are queer books. Lastly, I think I have my personal favorite, but this might just be me, because in the other ones, you either have them only excluded to one shelf, or when they are in the ordinary assortment and they are not on display, you have to check Goodreads yourself if you're insecure, and sometimes Goodreads does not give the best or straight answers for that sake. So a lot of the burden or like the work gets put on you, and I don't like that specifically. So I actually like what my school library's done, and I think that you can do it depending on which country you live in and depending on what kind of environment it is, you can do it differently. But it's marking the books to show that the main character is part of the LGBTQIAP plus family, that their identity aligns with something on that spectrum, which I think is pretty cool. So I'm currently reading If I Was a Girl by Meredith Russo, and I'm not sure if you can see, but it has a heart with like the pride flag. So that is what all the books in my school library has to, well, mark that it's an LGBTQIAP plus book, which I think is really cool, and it's pretty discreet. And if you're not aware what the rainbow flag means, then people aren't aware of what you're reading, which might be good to know, because a lot of people might not be out to everybody in their school or not be able to read whatever they want to because of their parents. Therefore, the LGBTQIAP plus, like the rainbow flag, even that might be revealing. So depending on which country and depending on where you are, perhaps it would be better to put it actually inside the books, or to have like a letter marking or something that your library or school library or wherever it is has decided, or bookstores, to make sure that the ones that are in need of knowing or that want to know actually know, and that they do not have to tell their parents, or that their parents can easily figure out. Like my parents would have no clue what this actually entails, but other parents might, and then they might actually prevent their child from reading what the child wants to, and that's not right. But I still think it's really important to display the books and to enable the queer readers especially to be able to find themselves and to find representation, because that's so important, especially in this society where queers are repressed and where we are faced with a lot of difficulties that allo cis-het straight people do not face the same struggles. And it is very important to be able to relate to other characters, and for making that easier for ourselves. And marking, I think, is what I prefer. I guess that was my rant. In conclusion, I think that is really important to somehow enable your queer readers to find the queer books in your bookstore / library. Then if you choose to do it with a shelf display, or if you choose to do it with like the tables, that's absolutely up to the stores, etc. But I personally like what my library has done. I think a lot of other companies and stores and libraries should do the same. And I think that depending on where you live and depending on which kind of school you go to, the marking can look differently and be placed differently in order to fit and suit the readers. But yeah, I think that was it. I'm so sorry about my cold. I would love to hear your opinions about this, because I was feeling such like, I'm not sure, like annoyance when I see the LGBTQIAP plus shelf. Yes, because I personally do not believe that is a genre, and I'm afraid that we are being like excluded to this niche thing. And throughout history we have always been like, well, if you're a homosexual male, then you're the gay friend that should pick out dresses. And I really do not want us to be like excluded to one shelf. We are a part of the society. We should be on the same shelves as everybody else. We do the same things, we exist within the same world, and we should not be excluded. And that's why I'm just afraid of seeing this trend, because I know that a lot of people see it as a positive, and I'm so afraid that it will turn into a negative. And that's why I personally prefer the markings so much more. I would love to hear what you think though, and you're allowed to think whatever you want to. These are my personal opinions. Thank you so much for watching. Your support means the world to me, and have a great day / night / whatever part is for you. Bye!